In Linux, if you want to run a shell file, these are the most commonly used ways to run that particular shell script. But is there any difference in the output if we choose one way or the other? That is what we'll be trying to see in this video. This shell file is what I will be using. It contains simple echo messages and a variable which holds a value, a function which takes an argument and prints out some message in the terminal, function trigger by passing an argument, and end of the file echo message. Now I will run all these ways of running the shell script and try to spot if there is any difference in them. Present working directory contains that file. Its permissions have been changed to executable. I will come back to this output soon. If we try to spot any difference, there is no actual difference in all these ways of running. All the outputs are exactly same. So is there no difference in these ways of running? Actually, there is a difference. If we try to consider whether these ways creates a new session or not while trying to run this file, I will explain it a bit detail. I will use a command ps. What this command does is it will print out the information about all the running processes or sessions. For example, this. Right now there are two processes that are running. One is the terminal itself and another is ps. After adding the command here, what I am expecting is to show when this file is triggered, to show the processes and process IDs and sessions that are currently running from inside the file itself. Now I will repeat this step of running all these ways again. I'll come back to the output soon. If we see at this point, at this block, these two processes were already running. Maybe the process IDs might have changed. It has created a new shell session to run this file. The same thing is true if we use bash as well. A new session has been created to run this file. Similarly, for // as well, new session is created apart from the existing running sessions. If we see dot and for dot and source, no new sessions have been created to run this file. Based on this information, we can segregate these ways into two sets. One set where it creates a new session, another set where new session will not be created. Now we'll further try to see the differences in these ways. In Linux, there are many shell interpreters that are present. For example, this one. This is Bourne shell. This is Bourne again shell. And we also have ZSH, KSH and DASH as well. To see what shell interpreters are present in your system as of now, run this command. it opens etc shells file and sees the existing interpreters. Right now I have born shell, born again shell, and DASH. Here, for running this file, I am mentioning that the interpreter which should be used is born shell. So it uses that particular interpreter to run this. Here, it I am mentioning it to use born again shell as its interpreter. That's the difference between these two. Now coming to dot slash, we are not explicitly mentioning any shell interpreter here, right? But it still run when we ran in our previous attempts here. How it is working is this dot slash will try to find its interpreter information in the first line of this shell script. This is a hash bang sequence followed by the location of the shell interpreter. Using this dot slash, not only shell files, we can also run Python files. The only difference will be we'll be pointing, we'll be mentioning here Python as the interpreter instead of any of the shells. So that's the difference between these three. One important point to note is while running in this way, I'm mentioning here as use born shell to interpret the commands. Inside here, the hashbang sequence has born again shell as the interpreter which should be used. Here, whatever the interpreter that we mention here, that will override the one which is present here. That is one important point. Coming to these two, they don't create a new session, and mostly these two are similar to each other except in some edge use cases. Okay, we have seen how can we see the interpreters that are present in the system, and what does it matter if a new shell session is created or not to run a shell file. To understand that, let's see a problem statement. Suppose I have two files. Let's say I have two Python files. In one Python file, I have some variables and some methods. I want to use those variables and methods inside the second Python file. What will we do in that case? We'll use import statement and we'll do import first file inside the second file. That solves our use case. But how can we do that? How can we achieve that inside when we are dealing with shell scripts? One thing we can do is we can run the file before the area where we want to access those attributes of this first file, and what we are expecting here is after running this file, these things would have been defined and we can access them. I will run this second file quickly and see the output. Here this block belongs to the outputs of the first file, and here when I try to do echo myvar, we actually were expecting it to print 1234, but it is not recognizing the value inside myvar. It's printing empty value here. And coming to my function, we were expecting it to run this my function because we ran this first file and its definition is present here. Whatever we expected in terms of these two, it is not happening. The reason why it's not happening is when we use these ways that belongs to this set, it creates a new shell session, right? We have already established that. In that shell session itself, these two are actually defined. That is the reason why it is not able to recognize these two, uh, which were defined in separate shell session. To solve that, you probably might have guessed by this point, we'll use any one of these two ways. Right now I'll use source and see the output. Second, the shell file. Here the output is present as we expected it to be. It is printing the output of my var, and my function is being invoked with the proper arguments. That is it for this video, and a bit of bonus information is I was trying to do some combinations with these ways of running scripts. In import use case, Bourne shell is not working as expected. So it's better to use Bourne again shell if your use case consists of importing attributes from one file to another. That's it for this video.